All right. It's been a while. Today is January the 26th, 2021. We are indeed in another year. And really, I just wanted to express something. The nature of things. We have a new president. We evangelicals and conservatives and Christians, many of whom would have and did vote for Trump and tried to vote away this Marxist agenda being pushed on us. This issue that so many people don't see. I've spoken to a lot of people on the left, family members and friends, and they really don't see the Marxist push. It's almost as if this serious control over media, news, magazines, music, has really taken a toll over the last several decades on getting people to really, really trust what they see coming out of a tube and really don't question it. It never ignites a critical thinking aspect, and the whole idea of possibly not believing it could be it's like a taboo alarm that goes off on people, and they're thinking that, wait a minute, this could be a conspiracy theory, and whoa, God forbid, you're involved in a conspiracy theory. But yet, a lot of people do admit that there have been many conspiracies throughout history. The whole JFK thing, the whole thing regarding the start of most of our wars. All right, excuse that I had to attend to my kids. I just noticed that it's almost like people really have bought. They really trust their media. They really trust what's coming out of the television, and they really don't think much to trust it. It's amazing. It's almost like a real hypnotic situation, indoctrination. This is really what many of us read about in high school regarding what we heard was, we just heard like a loose word, propaganda, and flowing through our textbooks and stuff like that, and we kind of heard it. We didn't really think too deep, but the essence of and the power of propaganda, man, is definitely seen every day and throughout this whole 4 years that we had with Trump. And it's amazing how the man literally was more instrumental, the man was more successful in doing for his constituency than any possible, political figure in decades. The man really did everything that, most of the things that he set himself to do and was on his plate. And surprisingly, he kept getting criticized, and everything he said, every movement he made was criticized and demonized. His intentions, every intention was demonized. Most news outlets were on him from dusk till dawn, just criticizing every single move, every possible motive, just scrutinizing it and just working it so. And instead of the masses seeing it for what it is and identifying, like, wait a minute, am I not tired of hearing about this Trump? No, the masses literally just got they got more and more infuriated. They got more and more incensed. I can't believe this man did this, and it's like they would believe, and they really jumped on that train. and they really drank the Kool-Aid. And so by the time he was going to run, his opponent didn't even have to run. They didn't even have to see him. He was in his basement most of the time. He wasn't trying to even defend his policies. He showed up at the very last moment, doing extremely mediocre in his debates, and then he on top of that, he didn't have to do much, and it was obvious he didn't have to do much because, he ended up the magic they produced, they did with the elections and how they. I mean, it's like, and people don't see the masses, and people don't see how down in the hole we are. I mean, how can we possibly think we're going to get back to where we should be with regard to our governance moving forward? It's impossible. If the left or any party, any side can manipulate and fix a whole election process, and can have judges posted that will be willing to not only identify what's really truly going on and use some discernment and use some serious constitutional judgment as to what's going on, and they could be so in the pocket for the left, not only seeing what the potential is moving forward, but also at this stage of the game not apply real constitutional laws. Trump had no chance because they had the judges in their pocket, they have the schools and the universities, they have the whole entertainment media, the news outlets. They've it's like a lion once he clinches you. Well, it's not just where he grabbed you with one of his claws. He's got you in a whole clinch. So the question is, how are we going to escape this situation? We're not. It's not going to get any better from this point on. We more than likely, only with the help of supernatural power, will we be able to find what we intended to do, which was only an experiment. This whole constitutional game. The thing with the Constitution is you have to have willing participants, people who actually believe in the spirit of that Constitution and those laws. And you have to have a certain idealism concerning what all of this means and this traditionalism. But we've allowed the enemy of that to grow into an ogre. And now, how is he going to be defeated? It's impossible. Our country, this sets a precedent. This sets a massive shot in history where we can forever define what our America's downfall, when it happened and how it happened. And sure, it was a progressive, decades-long effort, but what happens is that you give in to compromise, little by little by little by little. You take all. So, the communists won. Communism has won, and communism has already won a long time ago. Why? Because again, just like in biblical times, the fathers were not teaching their children. They failed to teach them. They failed to teach them generation after generation. And come on, if it's going to happen like that with the scriptures that are said to be unmovable, that are unmovable, because the word of God has been established forever, for all generations. So the question is, how on earth is an experiment on paper, on by just mere men going to survive. That we survived 240 something years, 243 years or 245 years, that this country survived that long on those intentions and that experiment. That's a grace in itself, because naturally that's what Benjamin Franklin, I believe, said, that if we've given you a republic if you can keep it. And even then he knew that if we can have people on the same page, then yes. But even from its inception, you had people who were dead set against it and wanted a different type of government. But this is from this point on, this whole tradition, and you know what, not for nothing, but coming from a spiritual and a biblical and understanding, a Christian understanding, when you really focus on the movement and the power of God over the millennia, right? You recognize that, maybe God doesn't want us to continue because it wasn't exactly, a republic instituted by God. It had good intentions, and perhaps it was closer to Judeo-Christian principles than anything, before it and anything after it. I mean, but it wasn't exactly God on the throne. It wasn't exactly an immovable government that the Bible speaks about that will happen when Christ does come back. So it's just an age of grace, and I was happy to say that, and among many of us, happy to say that we did live that age of grace, and we can be grateful for that much. But now moving forward, as things start to change for what looks like historically other nations, where things start to unravel and an entity takes ultimate power, and not for good, because outside of God you're going to drift, you're going to have no direction for healthy life. You're going to have a degenerating effect of a constant, a slow implosion of self and morality, of unbeing able to identify yourself. So, I mean, you have to identify God and you have to identify self. Those are the two main parameters for coming up with a life plan, a system of dealing with people. We have to understand what we're capable of. We have to know who God is, understand His holiness, His sovereignty, and our loyalty to Him has to be in the forefront, or else we're just no form of government is going to succeed. So the fact that we've lasted 200 and something, and along that way atrocities had been committed and terrible decisions, and nothing was ever perfect from the beginning, but it was better than anywhere else in the world, and the benefits and the blessings of God and the grace is definitely the markers are there, and it's all been for God's laws, for God's glory, that we've advanced in any way, and He's allowed Babylon to, kind of like He allowed Rome to build those roads. Well, they're gone, right? The same thing with us. We were just used by God for His purposes in His ultimate glory in the storyline of life. And so now ever more further we have to step up and we have to become bold. This is more what's coming ahead is a purging. It's a purging now that we're seeing this change. We're seeing this corner